Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Football Corner with Shreyas. Episode 5, and we have a match day to unpack. The group stage is in the books across groups D, E, and F. And let me tell you, the final round of fixtures did not come to play nice. We had the host nation top its group by losing on home soil. We had Germany, 4-time world champions, get mugged in prime time by an Ecuador side that hadn't even scored a goal until 90 minutes before. We had Turkey win and still pack up their bags. Curaçao, the tiniest nation in the whole tournament, bowing out with their heads high. And Ivory Coast booking the first knockout trip in their history. Oh, and Japan, they strolled through unbeaten and drew themselves a date with Brazil. Paraguay, they snuck in through the back door, while the Dutch, they served up a beautiful 5-star statement. And somewhere in there, Sweden, they are still alive. So grab a coffee and settle in. And let's get into it. Let's start with Group D, because that's the one with the co-hosts. And here's the headline that's going to confuse people who only check the table. The United States topped Group D with 6 points despite getting beaten on the final day. How? They had already booked top spot after 2 games thanks to the new head-to-head tiebreaker. And look at how they did it. Pochettino's USA team, they press high and they hunt the ball in packs intensely for the opening 20-30 minutes, forcing turnovers in the midfield. And once they are ahead in the matches, they usually have the legs to keep pouring forward. That's how Paraguay got buried 4-1, and that's how they controlled Australia 2-0, front foot, high intensity football. Win it early, get the numbers around the striker, and use the home crowd advantage. The crowd support, I must say, for the US team has been loud and raucous. Nearly 71,000 people in the stadium last night. The job basically done. So, when the final game came around, Pochettino rested his 4 main starters. I think it were Balogun, Tyler Adams, Chris Richards, and Jedi Robinson, who were all a yellow card away from suspension, and also tried to carefully manage Captain America, Christian Pulisic, coming back from his calf injury. And what happens? Turkey nick it 3-2 with the last gap goal in stoppage time. Now, it meant nothing for the table. The US still finished first. The good thing that came out of the match, I would say, Pulisic, he got some minutes back into his legs. The fringe guys, the fringe players, they got a really, really good run. Austin Trusty with a lovely goal. Sebastian Berhalter equalized just after halftime with a beautiful well-hit volley. And those 4 starters that we talked about, they are now fresh and available for the knockouts. The defense for the US still looks concerning for me, so it's a trade-off. And we'll find out real quick whether Pochettino called it right. Now let's talk about Turkey and actually about that finish. Because it was chaos. Level at 2-2, deep into stoppage time. The US backline, I think half asleep at that point of time. And Turkey, they send in that one last ball into the box. Guler nutmegging Pulisic. It drops into the 6-yard area, and Kaan Ayhan is the quickest to react. Pounces in from about 5 yards and smashes a right-footed low finish into the bottom right corner. No hesitation, no half chance about it. He just buries it. The stadium goes silent, and the Turkey bench, they go mad. It's 3-2. But here's the gut punch. Turkey win that game, and yet they still go home. 24 years they waited to get back to a World Cup. They beat the hosts on the final night, and still they're out. because earlier they lost 2-0 to Australia and 1-0 to a 10-man Paraguay side. And that Paraguay game is the one that did it for them. Turkey dominated the ball. It was 11 versus 10, threw everyone forward and just could not break down a packed, deep defensive block. The opponent goes down to 10 men and you still can't find a way through. That's the game that knocked you out and not the other results. Ayhan's heroics in the end were just a beautiful goodbye for Turkey. Brutal. So who joins the US? Australia and Paraguay played out a 0-0 on the final day that sent both of them through. And tactically, it was a proper chess match because both sides knew a draw did the job for them. Australia were the ones who actually went looking for it early. Jordan Bosch was the real threat, driving infield from the left, slicing through the defenders, and in fact dragging them one of them wide as well. And that's been Australia's whole identity this tournament. Get Bosch and the wide runners attacking the channels, use Hrustic as the link between midfield and the front. They beat Turkey playing exactly like that. Paraguay, for their part, they sat in, they soaked it up, and only really threatened off the bench late when substitute Mauricio forced a save. And once it was clear that neither side wanted to give the other anything, they basically just shook hands on the scoreless draw that suited them both. Australia took the second spot on the superior goal difference. Paraguay, they finished third and sneak in as one of the 8 best third place teams. And honestly, that 10-man win over Turkey tells you everything about Paraguay. Physical, organized, dangerous on the break. A horrible night for anyone who has to chase the game against them. The US, they now go to San Francisco to face Bosnia and Herzegovina. Australia get the Group G runner-up, which could either be between Iran, Belgium, or Egypt. And Paraguay are looking at a group winner, the toughest road of the 3. But they have been the most gritty story of this World Cup. Okay, Group E now, and this one stunned me. Let me set it up. Germany opened the tournament by putting 7 past Curaçao. 7. That's the most that they have scored in a World Cup match since the 7-1 win against Brazil back in 2014. Everyone's going, Germany's back, the demons are exercised. Because remember, they crashed out at the group stage in 2018 and 2022. Nagelsmann's side handled Ivory Coast 2-1 with absolute pragmatism. Undav off the bench with both goals and top spot basically locked in. And then the final game, Ecuador beat them 2-1. A genuine shock. And here's how it actually unfolded, because the manner of it actually matters. Germany, they score within 2 minutes. Wirtz slides a beautiful through ball. Sane gets at the end of it with a ruthless first-time finish, their earliest World Cup goal since 1934. 2 minutes in, dream start. And then they just stopped playing. Kimmich said it himself post-match. They gave away the ball too cheaply and kept inviting Ecuador onto them. That's the tactical story right there. Germany, they just sat on the lead, went passive, stopped being direct, and played a very un-German-like match. And a team that needed a goal, they smelled blood. And this is where the sloppiness cost them. Pedro Vite intercepts a loose ball in midfield and then drops it perfectly for Nilson Angulo, the Sunderland man, in for his first start. Angulo, he takes a beautiful touch to set it himself and then rifles it from the edge of the box through Pavlovic's legs, and into the bottom corner past Manuel Neuer's drive. 1-1, 9 minutes in, and that was Ecuador's first goal of the entire tournament. They had been blanking for 2 games before that. From then on, Ecuador did the thing that they do best. They retreated, invited pressure, defended in a deep, compact block, and dared Germany to just break them down. Caicedo bossed the midfield battles. Hincapi and Pacho threw their bodies in front of everything and defended as if their life depended on it. Germany kept all the ball, but they couldn't find a clear opening. And then the dagger. A corner routine right from the training pitch. Kevin Rodriguez flicks it on the near post. Gonzalo Plata stabs it home right in front of Neuer, who, I don't know, for such an experienced goalkeeper, completely misjudges the flight of the ball. That ended Germany's 11-match winning run. 40 years old, Manuel Neuer, and you've got to ask questions about him on that goal. Is that a weakness area for Germany going forward into the tournament? Undao, he summed it up perfectly post-game. He said, Ecuador were more aggressive, sharper, and Germany just weren't direct enough. That's the warning sign. Germany, they topped the group. Sure, that loss didn't cost them top spot. But the moment they sit back, they get got. And the knockouts are going to be full of teams who will counter exactly like what Ecuador did. Now, the feel-good story here is fantastic because this group sent 3 teams through. Ivory Coast, Nicola Pépé with a double in a 2-0 win over Curaçao to seal second and their first ever World Cup knockout appearance. First time in their history. They actually had the harder route. They beat Ecuador 1-0 early, lost a tight one 2-1 to Germany, then took care of business now on the final day. Pépé at this level, cutting in off the right, onto his left, and when he's on, he's a problem for every team. And Ecuador, they go through as the best third place team, which is just remarkable given where they were. 1 point from 2 games, hadn't scored a goal, staring at a group stage exit, and they win the one match they absolutely had to. Only their second ever trip to the knockouts. Their coach deserves a ton of credit for keeping that group calm. Spare a thought for Curaçao too though. World Cup debutants, the smallest nation ever to make a finals, shipped 7 goals to Germany, but held Ecuador to a goalless draw, and they walk out now with their heads high. Germany, now they head to Foxborough to face a third place side. Ivory Coast get the Group I runner-up, which could be either France or Norway, and Ecuador are looking at a group winner, possibly England. Long road, but they have earned the right to dream. Alright, the last one, Group F. And this might have been the most complete top-of-the-table performance of the 3. The Netherlands win the group. Ronald Koeman's side and the 5-1 demolition of Sweden was their statement game. And here's what I loved about it tactically. It was almost robotic in its repetition. Denzel Dumfries on the right, low cross after low cross after low cross. Every Dutch goal looked like the last one. Broby, a surprise start ahead of Somerville, slams home a Gakpo cross inside 5 minutes, and then toe pokes a Dumfries cross 12 minutes later. 2-0 and the game is done and dusted. Then Cody Gakpo takes over after the break. The whole performance looked like it was made in the Premier League. Verbruggen, Reinders, Gakpo, all linking, and the wide overloads just kept pulling Sweden's shape apart. Total control. And here's a stat that should scare people. The Dutch unbeaten run now is the joint longest in World Cup history, level with Brazil's run from 1958 to 1966. Nobody's talking about Netherlands as the contenders, and I think that's a big mistake. On the flip side, this game exposed Sweden badly. Isaac and Gyökeres, two of the best strikers in the Premier League right now, feeding on scraps up top. Graham Potter's done a genuinely impressive job steadying that ship. You remember Sweden were bottom of their qualifying group before he took over. But when it matters the most, it seems like the two have gone slightly quiet. Netherlands, they have ended the group stage now with a comfortable 3-1 win over Tunisia and are looking like strong contenders now into the knockouts. And now, Japan. Japan are the side I keep coming back to. Second in the group, and they've gone unbeaten in the World Cup group stage for the first time ever. That's 3 straight World Cups that they have escaped the group stage. Their final game, a 1-1 draw with Sweden, told you exactly who they are. First half, cautious, disciplined, controlled, content to manage the game because the draw did the job for them. And then the quality shows up. Intricate play between Ritsu Doan and Daisen Maeda, a beautifully disguised through ball, and Maeda finishes it off. That's a complete team goal. The kind Japan stitched together better than almost anyone. Sweden, though, they hit straight back. Elanga, he curls in a gorgeous left-footed cross shot that catches the goalkeeper completely unaware. Japan's goalkeeper looked shaky again, I would say, in this match, but he redeemed himself when it counted, denying Isaac from the edge of the box and clawing away a late Elanga effort to stop Sweden from leapfrogging them on the table. Sweden, I believe, had 8 corners to Japan's 2, and yet they couldn't find the winner in that game, which again tells you about the misfiring attack. Gyökeres, he was a frustrated figure, didn't have too many shots, and even picked up a booking. And the reward for Japan, they get Brazil in Houston in the round of 32. Moriyasu genuinely believes his team can win it. And you know what? If they play with the same fearless, intricate football, and Brazil, if they switch off even for a second, I would not sleep on the Samurai Blue. Sweden, meanwhile, go through as the third place team and are on course to face France. So Potter needs Isaac and Gyökeres to wake up and start firing again. And spare a thought for Tunisia. They're out with 0 points after a brutal group stage. That's a wrap on groups D, E and F, folks. But don't get comfortable because the group stage is far from over. We still have groups G, H and I to settle tonight, and that's where exactly we'll be heading in the next episode. Egypt, Belgium and Iran scrapping it out in G. Spain, Uruguay and Cape Verde, a side that refuses to read the script in Group H. And over in I, the small matter of France and Norway. Oh, and a certain number 10 gets his tournament going again in Group J soon after. So you'll know I'll be counting down the days. Until then, keep it logged, keep it loud, and I'll see you in the corner. Bye guys.